You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't.
On today's guest episode, we have our friend and soon-to-be yours, singer-songwriter and founder of Brendon James Wright and the Wrongs, local businessman, weirdo, and entrepreneur, Brendon James Wright. Brendon also started Knox Trivia Guys and is co-owner at one of our favorite watering holes and live music venues, Trailhead Beer Market. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brendon James Wright.
Well, welcome to Mascot, Brendon.
It's good to finally be here, actually.
I have probably called you by your wrong name at least 237 times.
It's pretty common
over the years, and you'd think, knowing somebody that long, you'd get it right. But I'll say it right, and then I'll convince myself that I've said it wrong.
It's something I don't even notice.
Yeah.
My friends notice.
Yeah.
So my friends are really particular about it, but
I just called you Brandon.
Yeah. But it's been my whole life, man. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you get the first letter right. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Rendon doesn't seem like,
And even if you say it like it's fast, it sounds sometimes like Brandon, like when we were at your birthday bash thing, you were there.
Yep.
You said Brandon's going to play, but I heard Brandon. So
right.
I thought it was Brandon. Polson.
No.
And then I was like, I don't see him.
So, welcome to Mascot. Welcome to the Honky Tonk. It's, Jamie was asking me how we knew each other, and I said, well, we met at the Mellow Mushroom like 125 years ago.
I was thinking about it on the drive over here. Actually, one of my favorite Knoxvillians of all time, Dennis Double.
Yeah.
Was the guy who introduced us. And it was, that's got to be at least 20 years.
Well, that's what Jamie and I were talking about because, that place has been closed for probably near 20, hadn't it?
I think they're still in business.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, I think they're still there.
But Mushroom?
Yeah.
Cumberland?
I just don't think, I don't think they're doing the music they used to. That was, so I think I played Tuesday nights out there for forever and Mountain Soul. The Sean Kimbrough's family band played on Thursday nights. I'd sit in with them every now and again and pretend like I knew the bluegrass changes.
That's funny. The changes aren't that hard. It's figuring out where one is.
It's there's a funky rhythm to it.
Yeah.
It's definitely, if you didn't grow up on it, it takes a little bit of practice to get it.
Yeah, it's definitely figuring out back where the one comes back around and like where all your phrases and stuff start up. But
it's banjo jazz.
Yeah, I guess it's. I always said it was heartfelt music sang through the nose. But yeah, so Mellow Mushroom many years ago, and
they are still open
through Dennis Double, who is from what I understand, going through a little bit of a hard time right now. So you all that know Dennis and send some good wishes and thoughts and prayers his way.
Dennis and Tammy too.
And Tammy as well. Yeah. Well, gosh, she's going to have a crown in heaven just for
putting up with him.
Yeah. Let alone. But yes, Dennis and Tammy both as well. big supporters of local music here in Knoxville. But
some of the biggest, really. I mean, the music collection that they have, the just the dedication to the local scene in general.
Yeah.
Being out there, supporting people on a nightly basis, becoming friends with them, and yeah, man, what a power couple in the music that we do, for sure.
Absolutely. And they, like you said, being out there, I mean, I don't think they've ever missed a Christmas show.
No way. Know. And you still get your Christmas album.
Yeah. Yeah, Dennis always makes a Dennis's Christmas mix. So you get a CD full of Christmas songs that are Dennis's favorite, because as we know, it's all about Dennis. So I'm sure you've been to their house.
I have.
I got to tell this real quick. So I went over there one of the first times, and got to meet her. I had met them, obviously, and got invited to the house, and really got to hang out and talk to them and stuff. And then, but I went over there one year around Christmas time, and it was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. You go in, and Jamie, they've got this big brick, brick wall with a humongous fireplace in it, and big, probably 10 or 12 foot long mantle. And there's this giant stocking hanging from it that's probably like 6 feet tall, dragging the floor, and it says Dennis on it. And right next to it is this teeny tiny little baby size stocking that says Tammy on it in little letters.
I've spent many hours down in the basement with all those records, man. He has crazy collection. I think 90% of them are autographed by the artist.
Yeah.
And, it's cool. He takes it seriously, for sure.
Yeah, he was always, you'll never believe who I got this week.
Yep. Yeah. And it gets a picture. Always has a picture with him.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. I mean, obviously Tammy's awesome. And it sucks to hear that he's going through a little bit of a health issue, but if anybody can handle it, he already had the heart attack and did great with that. So
yeah, he did great with that.
I think he's, if anyone can handle it, he can.
Well, let's hope so. He told me, I don't know if he wants me telling this. Fuck him, I don't care. He told me whenever he retired, he was going to come over here and he was just going to smoke me under the table.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I said, hey, man, whenever.
Has he not retired yet?
No.
I guess you would know.
Not only if, he
works in a mine. He's a miner, right?
He's a miner.
Like a copper mine or something like that?
Worked up here.
Yeah.
Mascot stood for mining and smelting companies in Tennessee.
Okay.
And we mined in the 20s. This was one of the, this area all the way up through like Talbot, towards Jefferson City is one of the largest limestone producers in the world.
Okay.
So we mine zinc and limestone here.
Zinc is what he was mining. Yeah.
And that's what Dennis does. But so one day it's like 8:00 in the morning, and I get on the front door, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Who's it? And I go to the door, and it's Dennis. And he says, well, I'm not really retired, but I got laid off, and I'm going to be off for like 3 months.
I think I remember this phrase.
6 months or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so I'm here to smoke you under the table. I didn't even talk to him. I just turned around, walked through the house, went and got a bong, this big, humongous glass bong that I had in the closet, and came out and just set it on the table. And, he hadn't smoked in a long time.
In theory, yeah.
Yeah. But needless to say, I did not go under the table.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure he knew whose boy he was when he left, but we had a good time. But it was he
drove home real slow.
Yeah, yeah. Is this stop sign ever going to change? But at any rate, Dennis is a good one. But well, you mentioned, last week we had Daniel Kimbrough here, and of course we've known Daniel forever. And then, and as you were saying, you sat in with them some, and then I guess that kind of morphed into were you doing a full band thing at that point in time, or did you just kind of get with those guys and then say, hey, here we go?
I had done some stuff before. It wasn't easy for me I have a weird relationship with music. I think my family wasn't musical. I didn't have any kind of like influence from that. I was raised Catholic. There's no good music in a Catholic church, so I didn't have any of that. My older siblings were all into 80s stuff, and like REM and kind of alternative type stuff. And it didn't, I was into it. That's what I knew, but that was, I don't know. I just kind of never had like I wasn't a Kimbrough. I didn't grow up at the tanning salon playing bluegrass in the back room.
Right. That's what he was doing back there?
That's a true story.
That's the way I'd tell it too. Yeah.
And so playing in a band was tough for me. And
it's a totally different thing.
It is. And I had spent so much time developing this like solo presence. And this, how it is, where it's like you overplay, but you're not overplaying. You're filling the room. You you can't leave any
you're everything.
Open space.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any kind of technical background whatsoever. I couldn't even speak music. I couldn't even tell people what I wanted. A lot of times I'd have to like play stuff for them. And so Daniel and I became buddies. Well, I had a couple shitty bands, and it never worked out. And I'm, looking back, it's probably my fault. It's probably there's definitely a lot of frustration on my end. And then Daniel and I hooked up, and
frustration comes easy with the lack of communication.
It does,
and or ignorance of not knowing.
Right. How do I express what I want to express? And that's just like
I had that trouble a lot.
Getting the team together, that doesn't even, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a good one. And if you can't even test out your bad ideas, you're struggling.
Right.
So Daniel and I started playing together. We actually it was kind of funny. We were kind of drinking buddies. I bet he was 21 years old, man, just old enough to get into the bars.
Yeah.
And we weren't really doing music. We were just hanging out, eating wings and drinking beer, which is hilarious now, knowing how serious Daniel is with, his diet and all of his, I wish I'd followed in his footsteps, but
I told him he looked like he just got over a hookworm.
That's true. And he's a good looking dude. Hey, he looks great on stage too. Those sexy long legs.
I'm proud of him. But go ahead.
So we were at a bar, and I got a phone call, and I was playing a lot. I was playing 5-6 nights a week on the regular, and I got
around here, different counties and or
mostly Knoxville.
Yeah.
Mostly the bar scene, making a pretty darn good living, honestly. Yeah. And it's tough. It's hard work, but and we were sitting at the bar, and I got a phone call about a new gig. They wanted to do a weekly thing, and I looked over at Daniel. I was like, "They want to start tonight. You want to just come down and play?" And we had never played together. He might have sat in a song with me at the bar once or twice, and I had sat in with him a couple times, but we'd never really played together. And then we probably spent 2 years doing that, just every Saturday night, and kind of learning each other that way.
Yeah.
And he's such a monster. And he listens. He can hear.
Yeah.
He listens really well, and he also takes a lot of chances.
Yeah.
And so we learned how to communicate. We learned a lot of nonverbal. I mean, that was what was really insane. You know, is how much we could breathe through a song without ever looking at each other.
Yeah.
You know, you just kind of learn everybody. Like if he dips his shoulder a little bit this way, I know he's kind of itching to play something here. Or, you know, if I just, you know, increase my level just a tiny bit, like he knows I'm going to go for something right here. And so we did that for a long time. And then he's like, let's build a band. And he helped me. You know, he was the guy that we auditioned a few people. That's right when Poe Hannah first moved to Knoxville. He was teaching at Rick's Music at the time, which was the ultimate lineup of Bobby Dix was out there. Andy Wood was out there. Poe Hannah. Oh man, I know who was the drum teacher out there at the time. I mean, it was just like if you walked into their lesson room, you're going to hear just a bad motherfucker doing something.
Yeah.
And so Daniel helped me kind of assemble the band. And we had Mike Allen, Bones Allen on the drums. And then Corey joined us later on. Like it was after, I think he came in and did a little tracking on the record, and we ended up just bringing him on full time after that. And then Poe Hannah, you know, it was like it was a fun time, man. It was really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, and y'all just did the one. You just did the one recording.
We just did the one, yeah.
I remembered it when it came out, and you guys were playing a lot of stuff. I don't think we ever shared a bill together, did we?
I don't think so ever on the band side.
I don't think so.
I mean, obviously we're always rubbing shoulders on you know, what was happening and what was going on, but
yeah. Well, I had been in Sevier County for so long,
right,
that I didn't know anything down here other than you know, Jeff and Sarah were doing the Behind the Barn.
Well, you were doing Backroom back then, right? Was that what was? Didn't you have like a standing thing at Backroom for what?
Yeah,
what a cool bar that was, man.
I know.
You talk about like looking back and kind of thinking about the places that you wish were still around.
Oh yeah,
that was a cool spot.
And then it was a real cool spot. Well, what we were doing there, we were basically doing Drunk Uncle rehearsals there.
Right,
was what we were doing.
Paid rehearsals, man. That's the best.
Yeah, and it was dirt cheap. I mean, they were paying us PBR.
Sean Blair.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a dick.
I love Sean Blair. And I would say the same thing, but man, I love the guy.
Yeah. And I'm not, and we're not here to talk.
I know. No, I know what you mean though. I mean, I get it. I'm sure a lot of people say the same thing about me.
Well, hey, and somebody else say something like that, you know, I heard somebody saying something about it. I was like, well, they're just giving somebody else a break, you know?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Whatever. But yeah, it was a great time. It was a really good atmosphere. And
I guess people listening in, Sean Blair was the GM of the bar. So
the back rooms was used to be Lucille's.
Yeah, it was Lucille's and turned into the back room. And then Sullivan's was right there on the corner.
Right.
And now that is...
They shared the kitchen and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now that is...
Lonesome
Dove. Yep.
And then they've got something going on back there.
Yeah, I think it's just they do like an offshoot of Lonesome Dove, like smash burgers. I think they do music out there sometimes.
Yeah. But I've heard them doing music out there, and there was, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he had called me once asking me to come over there, and I had a standing thing at the jigging reel and was just like,
yeah, it's not,
I don't want to do that right across the street.
Yep.
You know, because of the obvious, but yeah, we were doing a lot of that. I think we were there like on Thursday nights or Wednesday nights, or no, it wasn't Wednesday nights because that was Behind the Barn nights, but that might have not been still going on at that point in time. But any rate, the Drunk Uncles were kind of like alter egos. It was kind of like, you know, like because we were making music in Gatlinburg doing the bluegrass thing.
Right.
And just dying to get out from in front of the fireplace at the big log cabin in the sky.
It's funny how that worked out too. You know, that timing of all that was just, it was a good time for local music, without a doubt. And I think
those guys were killing it.
Yep. The big thing was there was like
Kevin had his rock trio going at the time.
There seemed like there was like a unified front. And not, when I say that, I don't mean like everybody was just all lovey-dovey and, you know, whatever, which there was a lot of that, but there was a sound. Like, if you heard it, like, that's a Knoxville band, you know, like there's something, you know, DVX was a big part of that. And,
UTK.
It just felt like, obviously Benny, yeah, agreed.
Credit.
Yep. And, you know, the fact that Benny was with, I guess, the EVX at one point, you know, like there was like a union at one point, Tony and Benny and all that stuff is like, there was like
Shane Timon.
I never really even thought about that, but I mean, maybe that was what the glue was holding it all together, was that these guys had a kind of a similar take on music.
Well, it could have been. I'm not sure, but you're right. I mean, so you had you guys, us, Tim Lee 3, back when they were ripping people's faces off playing rock and roll. And like I said, Kevin, Mick, and Scott Miller was playing.
He was still around.
He was still around more and playing a lot, more so with the band versus like the Hawkeye days and all that stuff. But,
totally.
But yeah, I had been working up there, and when I came back down here and started going out at night and listening to some things and seeing guys like y'all and everybody we just talked about play, it was like, oh man, I want to do that. You know, what I was doing was really good, and it was great in a lot of ways because, well, it was great in hundreds of ways because I was getting paid.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It was, you know, I was a single dad and was raising a kid, and I was doing what I loved to do. I wasn't working on a car, or I wasn't, you know, not that I was ever a mechanic, but you know, all the shit jobs I've done.
This is something I've never like. I'm going to interview you for a second.
Okay.
Is that
yeah, sure.
Is I always see that amazing picture of you. I think it's like a church picture, you know, and you're all cleaned up. You have the guitar with the tortoise shell. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
And man, you're
clean.
shiny. And it, like, was that real? Was that a phase of your life that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when Jamie and I first met years ago, I mean, I looked that way when I was 16, probably on up to 28 or 29, maybe. Yeah, that was the, you know, that was the festival, the Bluegrass Festival day. We always dressed the part.
Well, and
dressed nice and wore a suit and tie, and you know, because you know my heroes were those old guys, the Bluegrass Boys and Flight and Scruggs and you know, those guys came out and they looked like $1 million,
right?
You know, they looked impotent, so they must have been impotent, you know. So yeah, that's where that came from. We had some pictures made, and I think it was either Chip Maynard or Chad Husky that made that meme up. It said before whiskey, women, and pain, JCPenney's and sweet tea or some shit.
Chad Maynard. That's somebody I hadn't seen in a long time. I don't know. He's not been running around the same places I have lately.
No, I've seen Chip about. Well, he came up here probably about a month ago. Funny, I'd let him borrow I didn't have a place for this old armoire that you all can't see. But my mom's first boyfriend back in high school shop class built her this.
Beautiful.
And I didn't have a place for it where I was living at the time. And Chip was talking one night about, at that time it was me and Chip and Andy and Carl and
Andy and I go
JC some, huh?
Andy and I go way back.
Yeah.
We have some weird history.
Well, I
love that guy.
It's
man.
with Andy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was weird.
And it was the same thing, talk about like seeing a different human being.
Yeah.
I mean, this was back when I was in high school and we worked in a kitchen together.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Cooks always had the best drugs.
Yeah. And I was always a cook, man.
Yeah.
There's two types of people in this world. There's front of house and back of house. And I'm definitely a back of house dude.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I ran into Chip not too long ago, about a month ago, but I finally got this all done and he actually helped me lay out the first. So I built this thing in boxes. I built that box first, then built this box, and then built that one. And made it modular. So if I ever hit the lottery one day, maybe I'll just go buy me an acre on the river and I'll just pick this thing up and move it.
Yeah.
But at any rate, Chip had this forever, and I called him back and I said, I think I finally got room for it. And so he brought this up about a month ago. But what are we talking about?
I don't know, man. We're rambling in a good way. That's what it's about, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. But at any rate, so but yeah, I had been playing up there for so long, and it was great, but it was 200 plus days a year,
and
it was work.
Yep.
It was it went from, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting to do this for a living, to just like anybody else out there that's waking up in the morning to go change tires or whatever the hell, wait on tables or whatever you do for a living. It's time to make the donuts.
It's tough.
Work.
And your throat hurts and your fingers hurt and you're like...
And there was no creativity there.
It can break your soul, man.
That was a rough part because we had 100% creative control of what we did, but... I wasn't writing and doing a lot of stuff, and we weren't doing any like original stuff. We had a shtick. We knew how much money it was going to make us, and we stuck really, really close.
You didn't have any reason to change it up.
No, not at all.
It's that lie about, people say you do what you love and you'll never work. You work a day in your life, and that's...
Everything becomes work at some point. Yeah.
You do
can
what
turn
you love
anything.
and you'll hate it.
Yeah, like I think about porn stars and I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't get into that. It's like, it's like, damn, I got to get laid today. I'm not up to it. Like it just, anything, it doesn't matter if you're relying on it to get paid. And especially if it requires like a lot of physical effort, because I think that's one thing that people that have never done it don't realize is how much, even if you're just standing there looking at your shoes, playing guitar, it requires a level of focus and physical exertion that it's just hard to quantify, man.
And they don't see all the work that went into putting you on the stage either. It's like these people watching golf. They're like, they get paid millions of dollars to play a game. I'm like, listen, you have no idea how hard it is to do what they do, and golf is, in my opinion, the hardest game. But even these baseball players and stuff, it's a job, man.
Well, with golf, those guys can tell you within 2 feet of where they can hit, what they can hit every club in their bag
all the time.
99 out of 100 times.
That's right.
Within 2 feet.
Well, also too, when you think of golf, you think of the guys on the PGA Tour, and that's like what, maybe 200 people, maybe.
Yeah.
Think of all the people out there that was their dream and they're hustling, because that's what I was. My dream was to go on the road and have a band, and like I didn't want to be a pop star. Like that wasn't what I was shooting for. I wanted to be Robert Earl Keen. You know, I wanted to be the guy that could go and tour every year, make a really good living, take care of his band. And, you know, I mean, I think he just retired last year.
Yeah.
And I wasn't shooting to be on the PGA tour. I was like the Nike tour or whatever, you know, whatever that's called, the
Kern Ferry
golf.com tour.
Well, and that, you know, I think that's another thing that people don't understand. The common people and fans is like, you know, we did that for a living and made it. I was a fucking professional.
Right.
And I had the hardest time in the world because I'd get around guys who had a little notoriety or, you know, the best example, I had a buddy of mine that was a fiddle player for Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver.
Yep.
Great dude. Owen Saunders. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Good friend. But when Owen came around, I just looked at him different because he was different to me, you know. And one day, a good friend of mine, I said something to the fact of like, well, he's a professional. And that buddy of mine looked at me and he said, he said, let me ask you a question. I said, sure. He said, does the bank teller ask you what you do for a living when you hand her that paycheck every Friday or the deposit slip that you're putting in, or when you go to get a loan or whatever it is you're doing? And I said, no. And he said, you're a fucking professional.
Yep. Yeah.
And it took that to kind of hit me, not to make me, you know, puff my chest out and walk around real big, but to know that, holy shit, I'm doing it. I'm really doing it. I might be doing it on a local level, or I might be doing it, like you say, on the .com level, but nonetheless, we're doing it. And that's a big thing.
I always joke that it's
and
like
something I've been very proud of.
20 best accountants in your town of 175,000 people, you know, you're probably going to live on the lake.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're just one of the 20 best, you know, it's like, I mean, I would like to think at some point I was in that 20 best, you know, on the local scene. And man, I never made the accountant money, but I also knew I had to wake up tomorrow and change my strings out and load up on my gear and get out there, make sure everything works and have backups and redundancies. And, you know, if anything goes wrong, it's on me. It's all like my entire livelihood crashes, you know, and it's a tough life, man. It's not, I mean, it's amazingly fun when things are going well. When it's not, it's tough.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the things I was getting ready to say was you have to wear so many hats. So many hats.
Well, it's like owning your own business.
It is owning your own business.
You know, and you're 100%, you know, your next paycheck is 100% on you.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it done, you know.
Yeah. And how many times have you had one of those gigs? They were going to pay you well enough. You were going to get a good enough guarantee. And, you know, probably even if it was a half-assed night, by the end of the night, you're probably still going to make $80 or $100 in tips. So you're going to come out there pretty good, but you just didn't want to go. You didn't want to be there. You were just thinking about, God, I could just call in. I could say I fell off a fucking ladder and broke my toe or something, anything, you know.
That's why it's called work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's work. And I do think you can get to it. I do think it happens where people get to a point where it is a lot of fun. And there are certainly times where I was doing this where it was a lot of fun. And there were certainly times where it was really low. For me personally, writing, I was a murder ballad guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I actually kind of took pride in the fact that I didn't write love songs.
Yeah.
And
killing songs.
Yeah, killing songs and I was trying to channel like legitimate pain. You know, like because I think that people can relate to that. Like, I think there's something that happens when you, whether you experienced it or not.
Everybody's been done wrong.
Yep.
Everybody's been lied to.
When you kind of connect with somebody on that level with a song, it's really, really powerful. The problem is that when that's all you're writing, you can get in some really dark places, you know, and that's for me, that's, you know, I can write a killing song, no problem. You know, trying to write something positive or exciting or happy or, you know, so I was in this like funk, man. I mean, in self-induced prison of like, I wanted to experience it. Like I'd listen to Chris Knight and I'd be like, man, I gotta have more experience because he's obviously like channeling something that really happened to him, you know? And it's like, you kind of start hunting pain. And that was as much a reason why I stepped back and stopped playing full time. And really, I mean, at this point in my life, I consider myself more of a hobbyist than anything else. Mm-hmm. But the moment where I guess the two things were, one, going from doing this solo thing where I could make a pretty damn good living. Yeah. To trying to do this band that meant that I had to take a huge pay cut every night. Because even if we're getting, 4 times as much for the band, I'm still making less than I would if I just
said it for years. Math ain't hard to do.
Yeah.
If you're not doing long division.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, that push was a gamble, and the gamble was like, all right, I'm pretty secure right now and I'm going to be insecure. And the only way it's going to hit is if, something bigger comes along. And for me, it never did. It never happened.
Hello, music lovers. Campbell's Music Room Guitars was opened and founded by our longtime friend Kyle Campbell back in 2017. If you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, you're always needing something. From strings, picks, or maybe a repair to your trusty instrument. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has a full line of all the stringed instruments. New and pre-owned, accessories, pedals, amplifiers, and here's the best part, it's a local, family-owned business where you will get the very best of sales and service from the owner himself. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has something for everyone. Did we mention that he also gives private lessons? Kyle is one of Knoxville's most multi-talented players and teachers with many years of professional teaching experience. Located at 5103 Kingston Pike, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Give Kyle a call at 865-584-0041 or stop by and tell him McGill and Jamie sent you and you wanted to have one more for the good guys. I did. I was thinking about it a couple years ago, back when the pandemic hit. And I was just like, I really got to thinking about it because I was already cutting my days down, 100 from like 150, and then I went to like a 125, then I went to 100, and then I was like about 75, and I could do 75, and I'd been doing it so long that my prices had went up, right. And I was able to work a little less and make as much or more. And then that all went away. And, but at the end of the day, I was just like, I've played 28 states in 6 different countries, done every bit of it the way I wanted to do it, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. What more can you ask for?
And then, and then after everything kind of started going back, after we started getting back to playing and stuff, I just got to the point where I didn't want to. I love the fact that we play, and Jamie plays keyboards and bass, and I love the fact that we get to play once a month with a full band, and I do once I do once a month down at Trailhead.
Yep, that's
with
coming
the
up.
solo thing, and I'm as tickled now as I've ever been. Just doing that much.
You got to keep a foot on the pedal. There's got to be one foot on the pedal.
Yeah,
I'm actually playing more now than I was. You
played with Mick, didn't you?
I did a couple weeks ago, and then I'm playing with. I did that with Daniel, and then I'm doing Albright Grove here in a couple weeks with Daniel.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I got some things lined up, and people are calling, and I'm not making excuses why I can't do stuff as much as anymore. But it's like there's definitely what's funny too is when I'm not playing a lot, I think my guitar gets a little bit better because I lose a lot of my muscle memory. Yeah. And so I kind of hit more of what I want to play instead of what I'm programmed to play. But man, you don't have the calluses. You don't have it's brutal. It's just not the same as what it was when you're playing 5-6 nights a week.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I've noticed that for sure. I did a solo record a while back and just went in and just cut it live. I was playing all that stuff so much that it was just no problem.
Snapshot. Take the snapshot.
Yeah.
Be done with it.
And my first gig back, of playing acoustic by myself was at Trailhead.
Awesome.
A couple years ago, probably was probably in 21. And oh my gosh, I think you were there.
So there's something
but it was just like
really cool that happened actually.
What do I do now?
We never did live music at Trailhead.
Yeah.
And by the way, for people listening, I'm a part owner in a bar in South Knoxville. And, being a bar owner is a really weird thing because it's just, you kind of try to show up every day and put something out there, but you never really know what's hitting and what's not. It's just like this long game, and we weren't sure that music would work out there. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, everybody's world was flipped upside down. And we really expanded our outside area.
Yeah.
And we were kind of just trying to figure out how to pay the bills, like everybody else was. And I was like, man, I think we could do some live music. I don't know how people are going to respond to it. Everything too, when you're during the pandemic from that standpoint was, are we going to piss people off by trying to get people to come out? It's like, we got to keep the doors open and we got to make money. But at the same time, we also don't want to put anyone at risk, and we don't want to, sacrifice this next 6 months for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
By doing something stupid. And, so we decided to do the live music thing, and it changed everything. It was incredible. The turnouts were amazing. I feel like there was a period.
Well, having that outside space probably helped you all a lot.
Yeah, it did. It totally did. And we leaned into it, man. I mean, like in the wintertime, all the doors are open. We're like, you can't come in, you can come in and buy a drink and then you got to go outside. Yeah. Right. And everybody was cool with it. Like, it was just such a bizarre time. We'll be telling the next generation about, that'll be our.
Well, just looking back on it now, of when it happened and how it happened and everything, just what we know now versus we didn't know shit then.
Right.
It was kind of like, in a lot of ways, you remember, how old are you?
I'm 40. I'll be 45 in like 3 weeks.
Okay. So I remember, and you may remember this, but we were in high school. When the AIDS pandemic hit, the outbreak, and of course with the Olympics and everything, and looking back on it now, yeah, you're 100% right with the pandemic. Well, just looking back on it, 3 years removed or 4 years removed, knowing what we know now, that we could have done differently. But, I think we were all just doing whatever we thought what we were supposed to do, and or what we were comfortable enough to do.
I think everybody took that approach too. Yeah. Like, even when people had really opposing views of what to do during all that stuff, and maybe this is just naivety on my part, but I think everybody had a level of, this is the right thing to do. And it's like, for us, we were really torn, man. We had employees. We were shut down. I mean, completely shut. So we actually opened a bar 4 days before they shut down the entire, nobody was doing any business. So we opened a bar on Sutherland, the Trailhead 2, basically. We had a Trailhead on Sutherland.
Okay, I didn't.
And we did this huge renovation, had this building rolling and all that. And we basically we just did a soft open. So we never even had like a grand opening. And then came down, they're like, pandemic, we're going to close everything down. We're going to shut everything down. And so I think that was probably closed for maybe 3 months before we could do anything there.
Yeah. And
then it's like trying to open a bar in the middle of the pandemic is like the most insane idea you could ever have.
Yeah.
And we're juggling that with this established bar that, everything's changing. And I guess, looking at it from the opposite side now, knowing that being like the guy that's booking bands, and Joe Jennings does 99% of the stuff out there. I'm taking credit for stuff that guy is the man out there. But the pandemic brought live music back.
Yeah.
At least in Knoxville. I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but there's more opportunity for live music right now than there has been in this town since the late 90s. And the late 90s was pretty hot, man. I mean, like when you drive down the strip and there'd be 20 bars and every single bar has live music. Like it was an imperative that you had to have somebody. And they had touring they had multiple venues where you had touring, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers are playing on the strip, like Fish, like things that I feel so sorry for those kids now because all that business migrated to the old city and downtown.
Yeah,
man, there has not been a better time for live music in this town right now since the late 90s.
Well, where do they go? Because we were just talking about this the other day of like, we live in this town of so many 100-something thousand, hundreds of thousands of people, and you might see 15 new faces out on a Wednesday. Is it just because there's so many places, or what is the Bermuda Triangle of Knoxville?
Lord knows that if I knew the answer to this question,
yeah, sure,
I'd be taking advantage of it. But I will say that I'm basing most of this off of one, just knowing, just watching the dominoes fall on all the places that are committed to having live music regularly. I mean, it is. So one thing, and you'll remember this, something that happened that really soured me on being able to do music for a career was when, do you remember when they had that, I think it was Whitesnake was playing a venue somewhere in the like Northeast, and there was a big fire.
Great White.
Mm-hmm. Great White. Sorry. Great White. And it was a massacre. It was awful. Like,
yes, a bunch of people did.
A bunch of people died.
Yeah.
It was a horrible situation. And then
they were doing pyro inside.
They started changing all the rules on what you could do to have live music. And the big thing in Knoxville was if you didn't have a sprinkler system, you couldn't have live music in your bar. They had some weird, like if you had less than 75 or something on your, but you can't get a liquor license. Like it just made it impossible. And I'm sitting there watching this and just watching all these places that we play. Manhattan's was an example of that. I mean,
yeah.
I guess the Boyds put a sprinkler system in there. If not, I know they relaxed a lot of that stuff, but it was this overreaction to something that happened. And all of a sudden, half the places I was playing at couldn't do live music.
Right.
And the fire inspector was walking around making sure that people were complying. It was insane.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's you can get so much different insight from every different angle that maybe from our end or from my end, because I'm not out as much as I used to be. Maybe that's why I'm not
social media,
more aware.
That's why I know. It's not that I'm out. It's that you see it. You just see. I see the lineups. I see everybody. It is. I'm telling you, right now in Knoxville, there's more live music on a nightly basis than there has been since the V-Roys.
Yeah. Well, now you were talking about. So, what year was it that you kind of decided that you needed to step away for a little clarity, or for just a lack of wanting to try something new, or what? When was it, and what was it?
I think the moment for me was like 2010. I was kind of going through some personal stuff. Went through a divorce, and
I'll do it.
I also was kind of in this funk of, one, for me to write well, I got to be depressed all the time. I wasn't writing emo, but I felt like an emo. And two, I realized like there was no scale in what I was doing. So it was all, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this, is like, it's all on my shoulders to show up every night. If I don't show up, or I can't show up, or I was like, how do I, even if you're managing somebody else, see, there's so many, it's like get 15% or
right.
You're going to have to manage a lot of people to make that happen. So I kind of pivoted doing the trivia stuff, doing the bar stuff. It's all in the same realm. It's all skills I learned while I was playing music.
Right.
So I have a business that does live trivia events and bars and restaurants.
And it's the
trivia guys.
The trivia guys.
Yeah. We've been doing that.
I remember when you first started it.
Yeah. We started in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a crazy, weird transition. I was still playing, and it was just kind of doing that. It's probably like 2013 when I really it was like pick one or the other. I had to make a decision.
Right.
And,
and I guess the reason you had to, because either one of them could go either way.
Well, for me, I mean, it wasn't like that. It was like one of them's going down and one of them's going up. And
right. Okay.
I had to kind of, like I had to just survive, man. I had to figure out, it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. Really. It's like looking at,
I could see that, because you're a lot like me. When you're really having a good time and you're really getting the going, you're a jukebox.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time. I mean, I might think of a song I hadn't done in 20 years, and it's word for word I know every bit of it, every change, every whatever.
You surprise yourself. You're like giggling in the background because you're like, I can't believe I'm pulling this off. Right now.
Yep, and then other times you'll be like, I wrote that son of a bitch and I still can't fucking.
Yep, that is really, I mean, that's one of those things, man. You'll never know it until you do it. But I mean,
but when it's going good, that's why I say you're a jukebox guy because you know a lot of songs, know, and
you need to,
you have to, you can't just go in. Let's just say you're playing 3 days a week, and you're playing in 3 different counties. You're playing in Knox County, Blount County, and Sevier County. Let's say you can't go into those you can't go into that Knox County show and did what you did last week. You can. But you can't do all of what you did. And you know what I mean?
You can probably relate to this a little bit.
I felt like that.
I position myself a little bit differently than, because I was doing a lot of cover stuff.
Yeah.
But I was doing kind of more obscure stuff.
Yeah.
And so
insane.
I had to kind of fight to get the train started, when I was playing out. Like I had to find the people that were interested in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I was heavily Americana.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for everybody. And, I had to sprinkle in a few things that everybody knew.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I was really good at taking somebody and being like, hey, I'll play this song for you. And I think it's a really cool song. But listen to the other ones because I think these are just as cool songs and they're not that mainstream. And then all of a sudden they're on board and they're kind of exploring stuff that they never really listened to before.
Yeah.
And getting an appreciation for songwriters that maybe aren't, being played on the radio regularly or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And at the same time, all that was hitting. When I was hitting, like Americana was as big as it.
Yeah.
That was the first wave, the first big wave, like late 90s, the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And then it kind of had like a nice swell and then it died. And now it's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like Childers and Simpson and Isabel.
Yeah.
It's like, those are the guys that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to watch them be successful because I was right. I knew that it was going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't the one that got the hit,
Yeah.
Like those guys are killing it and they're writing legit from the heart, beautiful, well written, well composed. It's not
where they're able to write and perform fearlessly.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what our heroes got to do.
Without a doubt. That's a really well said statement is that, that it is a genuine.
Yeah.
The reason why it's great is because it's not like everything else. Chris Stapleton, Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did we see that dude play Barley's or Prez Pub? Even after, he did the Steel Drivers and they were huge.
Yeah.
And then,
they were clicking really, really, really good.
And then he walked away from that and they did the Johnson Brothers.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And
it's all straight up rock and roll songs.
Hardcore.
About dicks.
All about fucking.
Yeah.
100%.
Dicks and fucking.
Yep. And then, and I think that was a good for him. I think that's where he learned. I don't want to, shit.
Well,
I think he learned to play a lot. I think he became more of a player. And I think that allowed him to do what he wanted to do without the Nashville's fingers and what he was.
Well, sure. He had, without taking any liberties of saying what it was or what it wasn't. The first and foremost thing it was just different.
Yeah.
And it was different enough and it was plugged in and it was something that he either had done as a teenager or a kid or he hadn't ever done it before. And now he's got some buttons and some switches that matches that big fucking voice.
Right.
And it's Katie Bar the Door. It's Look Out.
Well, and that
secret weapon.
The
you
heart,
know?
yeah. That's the song.
Yeah.
And I feel like obviously his vocal talent is off the charts, but it's really confusing to me why he went so long with that off the charts vocal talent before he went big time.
Oh, I can tell you why.
Yeah.
But I'm happy he did. I think that struggle, I mean, I know he's done a lot of writing. I know he made his money on the writing side in Nashville.
Yeah.
But man, the fact that he kind of had to work that craft, and now, I mean, I don't know where would he rank in touring revenue right now? It's got to be in the top 25.
I'm sure he does just fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you start writing songs, there's a really big push for this right now, because I've seen some artists that have opened for some big people that wrote songs for somebody else that made a number one, and they're like, okay, we will let you tour whether you can sing or not. And obviously, he's not one of the ones that can't sing.
Right. Yep.
But what it is that it doesn't matter how good you are now, because it's much more than that to get a record deal. Or much less than that, if you will. You know, I mean, look at the guy. You know, when he started, started writing number one songs for Kenny Chesney and people like that, and started singing backup and things like that, like he sang backup on a Luke Bryan thing, he sang backup on a Leanne Womack thing with his wife.
Well, and he did all kinds of demos.
That's
demo
right.
Work.
And then,
hey, we need a singer in here on.
Well,
10,
like Joe Diffie did the same thing. He was a demo singer.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, after you do all that, and you got that body of work, and then he starts singing, you're like, well, damn, we can't deny this guy anymore. You know.
Well, that's what it was. Is they couldn't deny him anymore.
One of the coolest,
because they didn't know what to do with Roger Miller. They didn't know what to do with Willie. They didn't know what to do with Waylon. You know,
the cream always rises to the top.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. The coolest thing, the most rock and roll thing I ever saw Stapleton do was when he sound checks. You know, he's sitting there, the whole band's checking, and then they get to the vocal mic, and he just like wails, just like 12 seconds of one of his like super high pitched wails. And he's like, I'm good. We're good. We got it. I would try to do it right now, but it would come across as garbage. But it was the most, I mean, it's like, you know how people get when they're so serious about their sound, all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm good, man.
That was one of the greatest things about meeting him. We got to open for him several different times with the Johnson brothers. And the first time we ever opened for him, it was a Romeo's gig. And we were at the pub, and it was a 4-band night at the pub. Yeah.
It's a great stage for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, was it lifted at that point? Was it already like at like 8 feet or however high it is?
Yeah, and extra smoking, and just everybody.
Yeah, they put you right in the smoke level.
And you're not going to get a crowd till at least 11 o'clock. It's going to be a late night crowd. So they had 3 touring acts that were piggybacking off of them. And none of them wanted to go on after them. Everybody wanted to go on before, which, I mean, was fine. But the bigger band at the time, and I can't even remember what those guys' names were, but Chris's road manager at the time, Daniel Clower, came to me, and he goes, hey, you guys, he said, you guys played here before, right? And I was like, yeah, this is our place. We've filled this up plenty of times and played here lots of times. He goes, well, one of the bands, the band that's actually supposed to be headlining this little deal we got going is needing to get back for some reason or another,
Sure, they were.
And I said, oh, is that right?
Yep.
And I smiled real big and kind of winked at him, and he laughed. I said, man, I don't give a shit. I said, we're going after those guys. I said, we don't do what they do and they don't do what we do. So don't make me know, never mind. Whatever. You need us to do that to make sure this night goes off fine. Who gives a shit? We'll have them in here buying booze. Won't be no problem. So after that, he stayed through our set and came up and complimented us on a couple of different songs and the originals we had. I think they were $1. If I only had $1 and cheap bourbon whiskey and whiskey, women, and pain, I think. But at any rate, he was just as humble and as nice and as cool and as down to earth. And then we did a couple more shows with him out at the shed a few times and totally remembered.
That's badass.
Talked to us.
Yep.
It was just like we were sitting here right now talking. And that's what you remember. That's what I remember about that. And then that's why, when I see him at the Super Bowl, I fucking got emotional. I was just like, holy shit.
Yep. Rubbing elbows.
Yeah.
And that would definitely be.
Not just that, but, as the name of this podcast is One More for the Good Guys, and it literally, for him, that's one more for the fucking good guys.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
Good to see the guys that deserve it get.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And
because so many of them don't.
Agreed.
That was arguably the second best.
Oh, it was moving, man. Really
national
moving.
anthem of all time.
Step out there with a Fender Champ and a fucking Jaguar, and
now he does the Monday Night Football.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he sings.
I didn't know that.
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's not his fault, but it's not the best thing in the world.
I seen where the Dodge pickup trucks came out with a Traveler.
Oh, beautiful. But that's a
line, like instead of Ram Charger, Silverado,
Traveler
or whatever.
Is him. I always because there's so many good Steel Driver songs, and I'm always curious, what the credits are on that. And he doesn't really play a whole lot of those anymore.
Yeah.
Now, Steel Drivers all still play every single one of them.
Well, absolutely.
And they're huge. I mean, they're bigger now than they were.
The guy that took his spot is is a Chris Stapleton after taxes.
I think they've had like 5 guys take their spot. I think there's been a chain of dudes. And
next there'll be a little Filipino guy like the Journey, Journey.
That's a great documentary.
Coming in saying,
very cool.
Midnight Train to Memphis or something,
Totally, that's definitely happening right now. Hey, and Steel Drivers, beautiful band, beautiful music. I mean, hell, I know that there was a joint effort in a lot of those writing those songs, and man, they just churned them out. Those were all great songs.
Well, they were all kind of who's who players,
right?
session guys,
studio guys,
and then they were also writers of a lot of different styles and a lot of different stuff. So it was, and that's rare enough that actually works. That you get that all-star team
that can go out and
do it, or that can lay egos aside enough.
Toto.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You was talking about Sturgill. He was another guy that was really kind. I opened up for him at Barley's one night back when Rodney was still booking there.
Yeah. Rodman. Now Rodney's got
and he's doing great.
He is doing great.
He's doing great, and he's grown so much. With his sound and his style, his approach, and I love Rodney to death. But
he's no Sean Blair, but I like.
Oh well,
whatever. Rodney, I hope you listen to this one day and know that I'm completely talking shit and I mean it.
Yeah. Nobody likes you.
Yoga.
He's actually coming up pretty soon. He's going to come up and do one.
Oh, cool. Very cool. That would be an interesting listen.
Yeah, it will, because he's always I knew Rodney as a friend, but I also knew him most of the time I was around him. I was around him in much more of an official capacity, you know, like when he was running Barley's.
Yep.
And that was, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of difference between that Rodney and the other Rodney, but
I think there's a tons of difference.
Are there?
This is I have a little weird insight into this.
That's good. Let's talk about it.
So when I was, I used to host trivia out there at Barley's on Wednesday nights. And so I was still playing, and that's, we have all sorts of crazy cross-mogination on that. But I hung out with Rodney for like 10 years every Wednesday night. We would always just kind of get back in the office and just start talking about something weird. And then he'd be pulling up YouTube videos of some sort of like weird, like yoga pose he's working on, or some guitar lick he thought it was cool. But it was very cathartic for me, man. It was like, he's just one of those people that, for me personally, I can talk to and kind of like let down. I can be as weird as I want to be. And I can never be more weird than he is, you know? And that's a cool thing. That's always cool to have somebody that you can just kind of like bounce stuff off of. And obviously, they sold Barley's. And when they sold Barley's, Rodney was no longer the GM. And so we had this like long-term like romance of 10 years. Every Wednesday night, we'd be stuck in that office doing something like just the weirdest conversation. You know, we might be talking about UFOs or whatever, but yeah, man, I miss those times a lot.
Yeah. Those were good times, man. Real good times. Well, so 2010 and then 2013, you got really serious with the trivia stuff. During your playing days, did you ever have that moment that you were like, holy cow, I'm doing it? Or maybe you shared the stage with somebody that you were, maybe, my biggest one for me was I got to know the Kentucky Headhunters really well.
Oh, yeah.
I got to hang out with those guys and play shows with them. And I remember sitting in this driveway with that Picking on Nashville cassette, and it probably was the 5th or 6th one I'd bought because, I'd wore them out.
Yeah.
Because I listened to them so much, but it was just like, it was one of those, I guess surreal's the right word, but it's just one of those moments of like, holy shit, I used to like idolize these guys.
What's the quote?
You listen to them.
You never meant to meet your heroes.
Yeah. There's been a couple of those, but more the other way around for me than that.
I think for me, experience. And obviously this is not going to be a huge.
Well, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's for you.
So historically, I think that the first band I ever listened to that was just mine, and that I didn't like, somebody didn't put me on it. I just heard it once, and I was like, I love this band, was Nirvana.
Yeah.
The first one where I was just like, it wasn't my siblings' influence, it wasn't anything, and I was obsessed. I loved that band. I loved everything about that whole scene, and it was a really cool time for music. And so that, when I first started playing, that was kind of where I was at. And then when I went to college, my freshman year, I really got into.
Would you say that's what grabbed you, was Nirvana?
Absolutely. In terms of like, which, you know me, man, it's nothing like what I do. And it's not, it's just the idea that you can have that like ability to influence.
And a connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then when I got into college, I've been playing for however long. I remember the first time first off, my first buddy in college was a guy named Daniel Boone Razor, one of the greatest dudes you'll ever meet. And he, I actually played soccer in college my freshman year, and so I was on campus way early. and Daniel was on the football team. And so we were the only two guys in our dorm room. And I was like depressed, man. I was there a month before anybody else was there.
Right.
And it was just me and this guy, Daniel Kimbrough. Daniel Boonraiser down the hall. Didn't know him.
Now, is that three names? Daniel
Boonraiser. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What a great name.
Mount Sterling.
No
He's from Mount Sterling, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And
is he in porn?
Probably.
He should be.
He should be.
With that name.
DBR, the Unibooner. So I was having one of those just bad days.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the hallway and I hear music playing hard and I just knocked on his door and opened up, and he has a 175, a Jim Beam, sitting on the table, smoking cigarettes, listening to, and this is kind of embarrassing, the first time I ever heard, at least in memory, a John Prine song. And he's just rolling through it. And man, it changed my life.
Yeah.
You know, he is one of my best friends of all time. And, you know, I started listening to this music and I'm like, what a way to do it. You know, be funny and be weird and be, you know, I would say at that time, I mean, this is 97, 98,
Yeah.
you know, John Prine was still pretty under the radar, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
He played and he made it, obviously, man, when that guy died during COVID,
he was one of the first.
and it was just such a seminal moment because he influenced so many people.
Yeah.
But man, I sat there and listened to John Prine for an
Across so many
for the
genres.
first time. And so I got into that, and then got kind of into that Texas country thing. And at that point, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, Texas country was where it was at.
Yeah.
That was everything. And I was like, man, we need to have Tennessee country, you know? Like, I want to be able to write about where I'm from the same way that these guys in Texas are writing about where they're from. That was it. So that's what kind of got me playing and writing. And that's when I found my voice as a writer. And that's kind of what I mean, I don't know if I'll ever play the stuff I wrote in high school, but by the time I got to college, man, it's been the same path.
I ran across a couple of old composition books the other day of some old bluegrass stuff that I'd written. And, you know, there was a couple of them in there. It wasn't too bad. You know, I was kind of surprised. And then the other was just like, I don't even remember, you know, or how this was. Did I do this here, or how did that go, or what we were supposed to do, or.
That's why you got to have the recording, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
How many times did you write something one night and you're like, man, this is so good. And then you wake up the next morning and you can't remember. There was something about like the rhythm of the way that I was doing it, or the projection, and it's gone. I'll never remember that again.
Or the phrasing on the pickup of something, you know, or.
It's like, I thought that was so cool last night. And now it's garbage.
So, well, that's really cool because a lot of my stuff, you know, a lot of my influences didn't come till much later. You know, I didn't know, well, here's a good example. I didn't know, Paradise by John Prine was a John Prine song. I thought it was Jim and Jesse McReynolds song.
It's funny how that works.
You
right?
know?
Yeah.
That's because I was from that circle, that bluegrass. And they had a huge hit with it. I love the song.
Right.
But when somebody, you know, starts asking you about, well, you like John Prine, don't you? And you're just like, who's that? Al Schwartz? I don't know. And then you start doing a little digging and you get a little deeper, and then you get some of it on you, and you're just like, holy cow.
Well, and Kentucky had a way.
Crazy.
That, you know, I was in Kentucky for school.
Where did you go to school?
It was Center College.
Okay.
In Danville, Kentucky. about 45 minutes outside of Lexington. And they had John Prine was a god. In 1990 in Kentucky. It was just not even debatable.
Well, he was probably doing collegiate tours and stuff. I mean, that's what blew me away as you started kind of learning about those guys like that. Like, I heard Marty Stewart tell a story one time about it was Lester Flatt. He was playing for Lester Flatt at the time in the Nashville Grass, and they were on a festival circuit on a college thing. And I want to say it was like with fucking Parliament or somebody. I mean, somebody complete opposite end of the spectrum.
All right.
And, as a young man, he was just thinking to himself, this is what are we doing here? They're going to laugh us off the stage. And he goes, we get up there and they loved us just as much as they did the other act, And I don't think it was Parliament, but it was something day and night different, completely different. Hey, good guys and good gals alike. If you're looking for somewhere to go to get your hair did, then look no further than the Chop Shop Hair Studio. Our longtime friend and supporter, Cindy Lou, opened this spot located in Knoxville's very own Happy Holler back in 2010. Chop Shop Hair Studio offers a variety of services, including facial waxing, accessories, tools, and a complete line of men's and women's products, along with essential oils. A lover and supporter of the musical arts here locally and abroad, Cindy has a small stage with stringed instruments and offers discounts to guests if they are willing to play and or sing a song. The Chop Shop Hair Studio is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and 100% pure style, just like our dear friend and owner, Cindy Lou. The hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also visit thechopshophairstudio.com and or call 865-525-4240 to book your next visit to go and get your hair did. Located at 1206 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, Chop Shop Hair Studios. Stop by and tell them McGill and Jamie sent you to have one more for the good guys.
You can feel however you want about bluegrass.
Yeah.
And when you see a decent bluegrass band perform live, there's no hiding. You either can or you can't. You either know how to do or you don't.
Yeah.
It is true. Definitely a level of musicianship that you can't just go and fake it.
Yeah.
You gotta know you gotta be a player. You can't do without it.
Yeah.
And you gotta know harmonies. There's so many. It's very musical.
Yeah.
I think the thing that maybe people that didn't grow up in East Tennessee have issue with is it is so structured in a weird kind of way.
It is very structured in a weird kind of way. Yeah, you're right. And that was always a lot of times that took me a long time to get used to just letting things happen. Especially if we're playing something and something just feels right, or even if it's just a tempo, or a groove that just you notice it immediately, and it took me forever just to be okay to let's just keep it right there for a couple minutes if we need to, because
I think the worst advice anyone can ever give to a band is that you have to keep click track time.
Yeah.
I think that's just a weird, tell that to Bach, one of my all-time heroes is Daryl Scott. And that guy plays with, when he's playing, man, it's not like a electronic
No.
click.
No.
You know, he lets the song breathe. He might speed up a little bit, might slow down. I get it maybe from a recording standpoint, maybe. But I also, I feel like that's just a weird rule that I never quite.
Well, there were some bands that worked. You know,
it's got to be intentional.
I can think of like Steely Dan and Styx or Rush or somebody like that. That it was what I call math rock. It's like I just have to divide my brain in too many different ways. But they spoke that same language and they could do it, and they could push and pull the timing. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's some beauty to it if it's who you are. But I hated it.
Touching some nerves here. I like it.
Well, not. I could do it.
And I'm not talking extreme stuff, man. I'm just saying,
in recording and stuff, but it just didn't make much sense. I'm looking for the magic. I'm not looking for the,
Well,
I don't know.
There was a push to start that in the early 2000s, and it came along about the same time that digital recording got super hot, and all your DAWs,
clip and paste.
And all your DAWs got clicks on them that you can kick out a metronome to somebody. But the biggest thing was that the drummers sucked, and you just couldn't get a good drummer. If you got a great drummer that keeps metronome time, or at least a groove, then you don't have to worry about that. But you got somebody dropping a beat here and there, which is common.
Yeah.
We're, playing in the circles that we play in, we're pretty damn spoiled with musicianship.
There's a lot of really good musicians.
We take
here.
it for granted when a drummer just does what they're supposed to.
I think that maybe that's a better way of saying it too. Is like, it's got to be intentional. It's got to be something that everybody's on the same page with. Like going back to that kind of push pull, the unspoken, communication that happens when you're on stage and performing. Now, if it's happening because you have a shitty drummer, then it's the worst thing that could ever happen. Yeah.
Well,
and I get in the confines of a recording studio, man, it's really hard to even trust breathing a song like that.
Yeah.
Because
unless you're cutting it live.
Yeah.
Unless that's what you're going for, and then that's just what you do.
Well, when digital recording really got hot and started, these guys in Nashville, they don't have time to. It's like, look, this is 112 beats a minute. Play it, and you do a song, and you're done. And then everybody around here started. Oh man, we got to play with a click. Like in a live setting, if you're not playing coordinated stuff with other things going on, like in a theater show or something like that, I hate a click live. I despise it. And I've done it a bunch, typically in church settings,
right,
where I believe it really makes no difference because it's, who cares?
I guess it's good practice too, though.
I guess it is.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'll say that too. Not playing a bunch, that's the first thing that goes is your time. That's the thing that I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm even thinking about this right now. You're playing a song, and you're like, what? Oh, am I fucking this up right now or what? That's the first thing, especially if you're playing with somebody else. It's like when I'm by myself, I'm like, it's fine. No, who cares? But you're playing with somebody else and you're like, am I dropping this? Like, it is the first thing that goes.
And it's really harder, just talking to instruments, guitar, when you pick up a guitar and you start learning guitar, you start with rhythm. You start with chords and strumming. Piano's just the opposite. You start with single notes and melody lines or whatever. And playing rhythm piano in a band, a lot of people can't. They just don't know.
That's why the guitar is the greatest instrument of all time, because it's like that perfect like mesh between rhythm and
it's certainly
melody.
probably the most versatile for sure. Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of both.
Yeah, I enjoy, especially in the style of music that we do, I enjoy getting to play. I did a thing Thursday night for Gina Truitt, our friend down at Boyd's Jig and Reel. They were sponsoring the music for, I don't know, some market they have down there once a month. Mm-hmm. I can't even think of the name of it, but, and it was going to be I had one of those days to where it was like, I can't believe I got to go down here and do this shit.
Yep.
And I hate to say that, but it's just a fact. And, because there wasn't a lot of, number one, it was just me. So we didn't have a lot of clear cut, this is what you're going to do. This is where you're at. This is what, how it's going to be, play 20 minutes, take 10, play an hour.
Because they know you're a pro
5.
and you're going to be fine. But
I guess so.
That sucks sometimes.
It does.
Like, I'm on the sharp edge of this sword right now.
Yeah. And so I get down there and the girl's like, I call my contact or I text her. I said, I'm here. She's like, I'm standing in the middle of the street with a hat on. I'm like, well, that fucking narrows it down. This is not helping my attitude going into this right now, But nonetheless, we found each other and I sat down. It was just me and a guitar, no amplification, no nothing, just me sitting on a chair with my guitar case in front of me, just as if I was busking out on the square or something.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I played 3 straight hours. And by about 10 minutes into it, I'd had more fun than I had in a long, long time because there was no pressure. There was no entertainment. I didn't ever have to flip the switch.
You're definitely more approachable too. When you don't have amplification, like all of a sudden people are a little more, they may not take you as seriously in a weird way, but sometimes it's like the glass.
Oh, look, there's the big hairy guy playing. That's nice.
Yep, totally.
Or stranger danger, Johnny. Don't go over there. Which I've had happen before. But but at any rate, I just wound up having just a great time, and I played a bunch of stuff that I hadn't played in a long time, or stuff that I'd been wanting to play and that never really worked on, because it didn't make a difference anyway.
Yep. Your ambiance.
And by the end of the night, I walked away and I got back here, put my guitar up and started unpacking all my stuff. And, there was $75, $80 in the guitar case and just like, holy cow, I'm so glad I didn't listen to myself and get myself in the wrong state of mind before I actually.
You wouldn't have done it.
You know what I mean?
You probably did do all of that, and then you started playing. And it was fine.
Well, I totally did do all of that,
right? And then but
I didn't let it.
You let the moment take over,
grab me.
So that's a question. This is something I've never done before. Have you ever just like walked into like Market Square and bust?
I have not.
We should do it.
I've thought about it.
We should do it. Like, don't tell anybody. Don't do anything. Like, just walk down one day.
I'm down.
Like, on a pretty afternoon.
Just ping pong.
No, nobody knows.
Or go
whatever.
separate spots, or go together.
No, I think we should go together. We should go together. Like, trade songs. I think it'd be hilarious. See how much money we can make.
Yeah,
I'd want to be.
I don't think it's gonna be that much.
No, I think if you go on Saturday,
I see people busking all the time, and I've never done that before. You know?
Go there in the farmers market, you will, because there's some people up there that shouldn't be doing it.
They have some weird amplification stuff going on too. It's like, I don't think you're allowed to use amplification, but nowadays with those powered speakers, man, people are coming out doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Have you guys seen not only are they powered speakers, but they're battery.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah,
those are killer.
It's amazing how long they will go and how loud they will get.
Really?
Yeah.
I seen one I got an email from Sweetwater, like we all do, or some company.
Or that catalog that's this thing.
Yeah. And I clicked on it and started reading about it and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, man. Golly, I wish we'd have had that back in the day instead of dragging cabinets.
We probably did.
We need to do an addendum to this
probably.
Specific cast where we do some video and we just go busking. And I'll get somebody that knows how to edit that shit. And we'll just have a funny 3-hour busking. See what happens.
Yeah, I'm down.
I think that would be hilarious.
I'm down. I'll do it.
But you have to wear a.
Now wait a minute.
No, you have to wear.
Now wait a minute.
You have to wear a Cardinals hat while you're doing it.
Fuck off! No, I'm wearing no fucking Cardinals.
Yankees hat.
Yeah, and you can. You know what you can do. You can go suck on a tailpipe. Hey folks, if you're looking for a cool, eclectic place with an outside patio, plenty of UT sports games, cold beer, and live music on the weekends, then look no further than one of our homes away from home, Trailhead Beer Market, located at 1317 Island Home Avenue in South Knoxville, Tennessee. Trailhead is South Knoxville's first beer market, situated on the banks of the Tennessee River and in the backyard of the Urban Wilderness and Iams Nature Center. You can find more info on Facebook and Instagram about specials, live acts, and the goings-on, and be sure to tell them McGill and Jamie sent you, and have one more for the good guys. We were just talking about, because you're in the spotlight and you're an entertainer or you're a musician or you get that stage time that you must be an extrovert, and Brendon was just saying that he's much more an introvert in a lot of ways, and I'm the same way. Now, when I want to turn it on, I can turn it on.
Right.
Especially like if I walk into a bar and I see guys like you or, Rodney or Kimbrough or somebody like that, or somebody comes up and introduces me to their girlfriend. Yeah.
Of course.
And I just knock them out of the way and get the girl and start talking bad about you in front of you,
Yeah.
Nothing malicious by any means, but
that was one of my, when I was driving in, I was like, what are the things I can't do? And I was like, no inside mean jokes, cause that's my comedy is all like inside jokes that are just mean to, I'm only mean to people I love. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but not malicious. There's a difference.
It's not malicious at all.
Yeah.
Some people get it. Some people don't. I have a feeling people that are listening to this, they're just not part of they don't know. They're
fuck them.
Yeah. They're not part of the circle.
I mean, we don't need no listeners. Yeah. But no, what you were saying, it took me a long time to I don't know. I say that's
but the guy on stage is different than the guy on the floor.
Very much so.
It just is.
And it has to be. If it's not, you got real problems.
Well, Stapleton's that way.
Not many people get to read the fine print.
He gets, from what I understand.
Oh, he's very quiet.
Very stage fright. If like I saw him in Thompson Bowling, and
what's the Squidbillies guy?
Unknown Henson.
Unknown Henson. I've played with him a bunch.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about like a stage persona versus a offstage persona.
Oh,
I mean, it's shtick. It's 100%. I mean,
100%.
And that's clear. I mean, obviously he has makeup on, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Junior Brown's the same way.
I think it's a cool. Like I think
they could be insurance salesmen,
right?
And you never fucking know the difference. Like if you seen them off stage or when they first
on
walk
stage,
in,
man, he is something else.
But I'm with you a lot when it comes to that. I think I'm very comfortable by myself.
I think that too, when you're performing, you're putting it out there, you're kind of like, in order to do a great job, you really have to like emotionally connect. And there's a lot of vulnerability there. Even if you're playing tough stuff, whatever, like I think internally you're having this kind of vulnerable moment. And as soon as it's over, you're like, all right, I'm going to close my tab out, drink a couple beers. And
yeah,
I mean, I guess there's probably a time in my life where I'm like, I'm going to go party my ass off, but it was for the same reason. It was like, I need to get out of this place that I have to get to. I have to channel this place in order to do this thing. And when it's over, you can't live there 100%.
No, it's a flip of the switch. And you got to get good at it. You know, it's like I've been told a few different times, like I'm out to watch somebody and somebody says, hey, you know, they either do it in the middle of the show or they come up to you on a break and be like, hey man, why don't you get up and do one or sing a couple, or, you know, you remember that thing we did one time? And it's like, and I have no problem with doing that. I don't always want to do it, but most of the time I will, because evidently they think enough about me that they want me to.
Of course.
And I'll do it. But when I do it, God damn it, it's going to be one jackass at a fucking time, and I'm him. I mean, I'm going up there to steal every bit of fucking thunder and every bit of attention that there is in that room.
Do you remember Mark McKinney?
You know?
He was actually managing Scott Miller for a while.
Yeah.
And he actually, I'm name dropping hard right now.
That's all right.
He manages Floor's Country Store.
You're just telling
down
the
in
story.
Texas. And he was living in Knoxville for a while. And it was kind of when I was trying to figure some things out, and we were running in similar circles. I mean, he was somebody I knew that I could get really good information from. You know, like I would talk to him a lot about music and talk about what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And one of the things I actually was like, so if I'm opening, if somebody calls me as an opener, should I try to compliment what they're doing? And he's like, fuck no.
Hell no.
He's like, you need to go in as a killer 100% of the time. Go kill them. No matter what, you walk in and you kill.
That's right.
And that was definitely, I was willing to do the other. I mean, I really was. But I don't know. It obviously didn't pan out for me all that well, but at the same time, that was the advice I was getting. You were actually telling a story though before that about getting up on stage, and I have a hilarious story.
Yeah,
at least from my perspective, of a time. It was back when you did the Christmas show at Barley's.
Okay.
And the Wrongs did. So we did share the stage for that for sure. And we did like a little 3-song hit early on. So this is back when the Christmas show was at Barley's. And you just had a bunch of band. It wasn't quite as organized as it is now.
Okay. It wasn't the Christmas show. It was the end of the world.
Yeah.
It was the Mayan calendar.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was the year right before we started the Christmas thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And so,
I'd forgotten that you were on that.
I'm not a big pot smoker. I'm not dude, I wish I liked weed more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of drugs. I do a lot of drugs recreationally, but weed has never been my favorite. And Bones Allen, our drummer's wife, had some pot brownies that night.
Mm-mm.
And only because we only had that 3-song hit, I was like, all right, we played our little 3 songs. Barley's was packed. Every guy in town was there. It was awesome. It was a great night.
Yeah.
And I went outside and Adina had these pot brownies, ate the pot brownie, came in. And, it got towards the end of the night and you were just calling people on stage, like, come do it. Just come on, hop up. And I'm losing my ever-living mind. And how Barley's has that column that runs right through, right in front of the stage. And it gets to a point where, Daniel's obviously up there, playing bass, and you're like, "Come on, Brendon, come on, get up and play a song." Like, and I'm like, "No, I don't think I need to do that." And you're like, "No, I really think, like, come on, like, get up, you know." And then everybody in the audience is like, "Come on, Brendon, like, get on up." And they're like pulling on me, and I'm like wrapping my arms around the post at Barley's. I'm like, there is no chance in hell I'm getting on this stage right now. So
I was oblivious to it, or I would have not have done it.
Oh no, it was hilarious.
I was oblivious.
I deserved every bit of what I got on that, but
that's awesome.
A hilarious moment. And when you were sitting there talking about getting up and killing, there's no way I could have killed. I would have, who knows what I would have done if I actually got on stage.
So I have a funny story about similar, very, very similar. We were, I got called to do the Swerve. And so I went down and was getting ready to do the Swerve. And there was two guys that were going to be playing later that night, and they were already there watching the Swerve. And Justin Cliff, Colby Byram, all that crew.
The usual suspects.
Yes. All the back of the class had showed up. And but these guys were... they were either the guys who were, I think they were with Widespread Panic, but it was a kind of heavier set guy, gray hair, gray beard, and another dude. I can't remember their names.
Gotcha.
But they sat and watched my whole deal at the Swerve, and I was having a pretty good night. I was on, and of course, Wayne and I had some classic banter and all that good stuff.
Wayne the Train.
And I got done and went outside, and that guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, you're really good." He said, "Let's go outside and have a beer." And I said, "Sure." I said, "I'm gonna fire up a cigar anyway." I said, "Yeah, we'll go out there." So we went out and we got to hanging out and got to talking. Well, he was big in the bluegrass stuff, and we started immediately having some interaction about bluegrass stuff, swapping stories, just, what you do. And still, I don't know this fucking guy. I don't, Widespread who, I don't care, whatever, And it's not because I'm being an asshole. It's just not my thing.
It's not your thing. Yep.
And so he's just a nice fella who plays as well and has been nothing but nice and complimentary to me. So I'm going to have a good time with this guy. Well, the next thing I know, this girl shows up. And she's like a weed angel. She just shows up and has a joint, Got the good stuff. And it's the shit that killed Kim Jong-un. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's the shit that could kill Trump. It was the good shit. And, dude, I was blistered. And I'm a pro.
I'm a pro.
I
have a feeling Dennis Double would have been able to handle this, no problem.
No, Dennis Double would have
been like
sucking his thumb, curled up in the fetal position in the broom closet somewhere.
No, he'd be eating snow crab on that shit.
Oh, hell. So, any rate, I'm stoned to the bone, and we're having a good time. And I hadn't drove that night. My buddy Chad Husky had actually drove me down there. He had went to the show too. And he was like, "Yeah, I hear these guys supposed to be pretty good. We should stick around and see them." I'm like, "Well, that's all I needed. I ain't driving. It's fine. I'm knocking them back. The Weed Angel's coming around every so often, And me and this guy's talking about old bluegrass, and I've, and the next thing I know, Chad said he walked out the door and he heard me stand up and say, "Jimmy fucking Martin," like that. And so those guys get in and go to play, and they get through their first set and they come back out. And I'm in no better shape than what I was when the first time the Weed Angel came around. Well, this time he brings out the joint of death.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a tater. It's a big one. And we hit that thing, and he's just like, man, he's like, "You need to get up." And he was playing guitar, and the other dude was playing mandolin. He goes, you need to get up. He said, you don't have to play if you don't want to, but if you want to play, you're welcome to play. He's like, but let's sing some of those old bluegrass songs we were talking about. And I was like, yeah, man, that sounds fun. And he turned to leave. And what sounded like fun sounded like absolute hysteria. There was no fucking way in God's green earth that I was going to go up there.
Yeah.
So evidently it had made the rounds through the usual suspects and everybody else that McGill was getting up with these guys. And this is going to be fucking great, and I couldn't do it. I didn't know.
So how'd you get out of it?
I just didn't go.
I just didn't go.
Yeah.
You didn't have a post. Like, Barley's is unique in that there's a post that runs right through the middle of the bar.
I just stayed hidden outside.
That's awesome.
But there's no way. And I kept trying. I just kept trying to think, I could do Rocky Road Blues, or I could do, I know that shit.
And then you start getting into it in your head.
Yeah, and oh no, it probably would have been fine. It ain't probably like anybody hadn't ever seen me on a real late night that I didn't give a shit anyway.
But honestly though, imagine if you were 19 right now. Because,
I would have totally done it.
Well, not only that, but like the weed is so much better today than it was back in the day. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you would have made it. I would be okay because I'm because the drug is not my favorite, because it makes me really self-conscious and I get literally stoned every time
Oh, dude, this was like I'd smoke fucking Drano or transmission fluid or something. It was.
I have learned that all my life I've been like. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been a long time where you actually could choose whether you wanted indica or sativa.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I want sativa. Like, if I'm gonna do, I'm the guy that gets
up,
whatever, and I want sativa. And then I'm like, very recently, I was like, no, I'm an indica guy. I was taking the wrong thing the whole time.
I'm a total indica guy.
It was messing with me.
I like the indica better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was weird about that was the whole time we're sitting there talking, he's stoned too. So
who was it? Do you know who it was?
I don't.
So somebody with widespread.
Yeah. Justin or Colby or one of those guys. They didn't know.
All right.
It was a big deal, and it was fucking packed.
Was it George McConnell, maybe?
It might have been. Could have been George fucking Washington or probably George Jefferson at that point.
That is hilarious.
But
it could have been George fucking Washington.
I don't know, man. I was.
Yeah, behind every good man, there's a good woman.
Yeah, I was.
Martha Washington. That was.
I was on another planet, dude. I was way out there. But yeah, I wound up. I didn't go up, and I still kind of regret it because I know it would have been fine. Hell, those guys were blasted too.
All right, so you want to get real weird?
Sure.
So I am leaving next Tuesday. I'm going.
Yeah, you said you had some travels.
I'm going to Peru.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to do some backpacking through the Andes and do some really cool stuff. Go to Machu Picchu. But the big thing I'm supposed to be doing this trip is I'm going to do
ayahuasca. Are you?
I'm supposed to. I'm a little nervous about this whole experience.
Going down there with Aaron Rodgers?
I am not.
Your dark journey for today?
I appreciate Aaron Rodgers. I like his approach.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm definitely I'm contemplating, I'm at this point where I'm trying to schedule this thing and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do it or not. Because everybody I've talked to that has done it, the ones I most respect, the ones I that's the wrong word. Respect is the wrong word. The ones that I think they did it for the most right reasons. They've all had really bad experiences on it. So,
well, you may do it and like start writing love songs.
Is that something have you ever done ayahuasca?
No.
Would you do it?
I don't know, man. Maybe. I know I would have done it 20 years ago. I would have done it no problem. No, I wouldn't have even thought twice. But over the last, let's see. Probably one of the last farm parties we had, somebody had some really good shrooms.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
And I watched Andy turn into Jabba the Hutt. And it kind of fucked.
Well, and mushrooms are baby toys. I think
so that being said, I've just been, and I used to love them, but and and acid and that stuff, but I haven't. I don't know. After that time, I was just like, maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe hallucinogens are not for me.
Well,
I haven't done them in a long, long time.
The people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, like, just don't come back weird. If you do it, don't come back different. And part of the reason why I want to do it is like, maybe it'll be transformative. Maybe I'll do something, maybe I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so next Tuesday.
I start chasing fucking cars though. Who knows? I mean,
I could chase cars and maybe love it.
Yeah. I mean, you might be maybe you just been like, man, I miss.
It's like that weird guy you see in the Kroger parking lot. Maybe he's happier than all of us. And we don't realize it. Yeah. Maybe he's fine.
That's true.
We're the weird ones.
I think if you're okay with the aforementioned, with the hallucinogenics and stuff like that, you're probably not going to have a problem with it. I just get this sense of dread. I know I done some here a couple of years ago, and just like a baby amount.
Right.
And I felt it coming on, and I knew it wasn't going to be anything that was going to be too wild, or I wasn't.
Mine says everything.
Shit crawling.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But that feeling of knowing it was coming, I had the most horrific sense of anxiety, and just didn't like it.
And that's a
stop
killer. Yeah.
And I hadn't even really began to trip yet. So
how long ago was that?
And there's
how long ago was that?
I've been on paper and been eating pot cookies and been at Lebowski Fest
and just
and just been happy as
naive and happy.
Yeah.
Playing with your toes.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know.
Mine says everything.
Yeah.
But that's the thing of ayahuasca specifically is I think that that people talk about that in a sense of when you have a really bad trip, that's like a really good thing in a weird way. Like that's when you really work through something that's, maybe misfiring in your brain or.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard mixed reviews, on different podcasts and different people, celebrities wise that's done it. And I've heard great, and then but now that I really am thinking about it, I think I've only heard one guy talk about it not being enjoyable. And everybody now could all be
so. And that same person where they
bullshit. But
was their experience overall beneficial or was it a negative experience? Like that's
they had done it. They had done it quite a few times here in the States, and then went and done it. And the last time that they did it was the last time they ever did it.
So this is where my heart is on this.
Was it Neil Brennan, the comedian that's helped write on the his glasses, kind of a skinny, goofy looking guy, wrote on the Chappelle show with Dave I think it's Neil Brennan, right? The one I heard, and that was
he was describing his experience.
He was the one that
said he had a bad one.
Yeah, after having so many different good experiences on it.
So this is
my thing.
This is my thought.
Yeah.
I think if I do it, which I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm organizing it. So I'll have the option when I'm out there is I think I'm going to have a bad experience. I think it's going to be bad. Like I've already convinced myself that it's going to be bad, but it's going to be like
and why? Because it's foreign? Because it's something.
No, I mean, I think that
it's unknown, or why? Why is that?
I'm really hard on myself. I have this internal dialogue. I have like, I definitely have things that I wish about myself that I wish didn't exist, right? Well, and I want like the purpose of doing something like that for me would be if I could like. Break through it, then I would. And so for me personally, I almost feel like I'm terrified of having a terrifying experience, but I'm also like, I have a feeling I'm going to have a terrifying experience, and that's what I need to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is and that's probably a lot of my trouble too, is when over the last few times that I've decided to do it to trip is it's psychosomatic. Maybe I was just setting myself up for failure from the very beginning.
Well, that's why the best strategy is to do a little MDMA before
do it,
and then you get in this like happy state, and then you open your mind to like a really good. Like I've never done hippie flip. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
My biggest thing is
you won't get that. You won't get that dread. You'll actually, the idea is to kind of like center yourself right before and then jump on in.
Is that how they do it down there?
No, I don't think so. I think they actually try to scare the shit out of you. There's like, you get a shaman, an actual like legitimate Peruvian shaman, and it's a ritual that is ancient, may not be the right word, but something that's been hundreds of years old.
Yeah,
and man, I
don't like the ideas that you might shit yourself or you might throw up.
Yeah, you definitely will. I think on ayahuasca, I think it's very common to throw up.
Yeah, somebody who did it, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, and I don't know if her stuff's still, Chelsea Handler.
Yeah, I like Chelsea.
I do too.
Yeah.
After she left Comedy Central or USA or whatever she was on there for a long time, and then went to Netflix and started her own series on that. They actually took a trip to Peru and filmed it.
Huh, I'm gonna look this up actually because I want to see that.
Yeah, and that was pretty interesting. But
what's the one of the blue collar comedy tour guys?
Ron White.
Ron White.
Yeah,
he said I think he's drinking again, but he went down to quit drinking, and quit cold turkey.
Yeah,
not that I want to do that. I mean, I love drinking.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I heard I seen something with him on it 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I guess from what I understand, he's not drinking.
Well, he's definitely the funniest of the blue collar comedy tour guys
for sure. I didn't realize that he had been in comedy as long as he had been in it. But, he'd been in it like 30-something years.
comedy's the new Americana right now.
Yeah.
It
I
is
think that's
a crazy time for
pretty good
comedy. People are like crawling out of the woodworks.
Yeah.
It's a really good phase. Everybody's killing it.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of really funny people out there.
Yeah.
And Ron White's definitely one of them.
Yeah. He's very good. I'll tell you a guy I really like a lot and don't get a lot of, he's got a few specials, but I really like him. And I think I like him. I think I like him because he don't work real blue. Like he'll drop one every now and then, but it means something that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like music.
Yeah, you can't just go out.
Yeah, if you're just
wang dang poon tang
cussing
all
up,
the damn time.
yeah.
You know, you gotta know when to do it. But a guy named Tom Papa.
I don't know Tom Papa.
Check his stuff out, man. He's got some stuff on Netflix.
Shane Wang, that's
really good.
He's clean as a whistle.
Yeah,
he's bizarre and hilarious.
Yeah, but then on the opposite end of that, I love Joey Diaz. And if you've never seen Joey Diaz, oh my God.
I think I know him just from reference on podcasts.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I like,
it's the funniest.
Obviously the king right now, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
He's the man. He's going to go down in history as one of the top.
Oh yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 of all time.
He'll be up there with like
Pryor, and he's been real quiet for a while.
And Carlin.
Which I'm excited about seeing when he pops
Eddie.
back out. So when people ask me what my like favorite like band that I don't like to tell people I love is, it's Cake. Like that's my kind of embarrassed awesome band. Okay. And my embarrassed awesome comedian is Bert Kreischer. I think that guy's hilarious. And yeah, it's like all of his time frames line up with mine. So it's like there's so much, like he's just living the same time frame as I am. So all of his jokes are relevant to what I'm doing.
Have you got to see The Machine yet?
Of course.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It was terrible, but it was kind of terribly good.
The routine is awesome, but yeah, the movie is, hey, he's milked that bit. That may be,
oh my gosh,
outside of what George Carlin's, the 4-letter words, is that what it was?
7 words you can't say.
7 words you can't say. Outside of that specific bit, The Machine may be the most like lucrative bit in the history of comedy.
Yeah, or You Might Be a Redneck.
Oh, well, of course. That's one, probably...
Or Get Her Done. But it ranks right up there with all those
you're blowing me up. But you got.
Well, I don't mean to do that.
I get it, though. Yeah. You're right. But, it's funny how you like people have one idea.
Yeah.
And it's like music, man. Like you have one great song and you keep like pulling it back.
AC/DC.
Yeah. Well,
why would you change it?
I mean, AC/DC has 10 great songs that are the same song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm,
an amazing one.
I'm getting at.
Yeah. I get that.
But yeah, check out Joey Diaz, man.
I know I've listened to him before, but
Joey's so fucking funny and he's so irreverent and he don't give 2 damns about nothing.
Right.
And he's just great. He's got this bit about, allergies, food allergies and shit. And it's like, you mean to tell me if this kid's had fucking peanut allergies and you're sitting at a bar and this girl's eating peanuts out of the bowl and she's going to give him a blowjob, that he's not going to fucking go do it? What's the worst that can happen? His fucking head's going to blow up and explode. That's what you're shooting for, cocksucker. And all this.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great. But, yeah, I love the comedy.
I do too. I think it's funny. I think that,
I listen to a lot of the podcasts, at work and stuff.
You gotta feel for comedians though, because as a musician, you write one good song and you can play it every night for 10 years. And with a comedian, you have one good joke, and as soon as everybody's heard it, it's done. You got to work on something else. It's like that one. That to me is, I think that comedians is got to be one of the most depressing jobs. You know, it's like as soon as the cat's out of the bag, you got to go back to work.
Well, yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
You can't bank anything. You got to.
That's where it comes from, is that depressiveness and the sense of, fuck, I just got to keep working, you know?
It's close. You know, they're very similar things. I do think that, that, I don't know, man. When I think about that idea of the second, you know, they have like pockets that they put your phone in now when you go to a comedy show. That makes it so you can't text and you can't record anything and you can't, just to keep their jokes safe until they want to do like a special or something like that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being that way with a song? Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess for years it was like that, and then and Napster kind of moved it out of that direction, or with like the Grateful Dead, they encouraged those bootlegs and those tapes and free trade and all that stuff. But
it worked out pretty good for them.
Yeah. Shit, they hit the lottery 3 different times.
Yeah, I went to a Dead and Company show this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my big highlights, I got to go fishing with Bill Kreutzmann over in Hawaii one time.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about bluegrass and different stuff, but he was just like, I try not to fanboy out. Of course, it was pretty easy for me not to fanboy out because I'm not a huge Deadhead.
Right.
They've got some songs I like, but I'm not, you know, I don't own an album.
Part of the American
tie-dyed
songbook.
shirt because I fucking, you know, whatever. But at any rate, he was just saying, you know, he said, just imagine hitting the lottery 3 different times. He said, that's
over and over and over again. Yeah.
He said 3 different times.
When you think you're done, and then you go in a direction, and then all of a sudden you're right back where you started.
Yeah.
And I guess it's still going. I actually had an experience, and I think I'll leave it at this because I think this is a cool thing. I think this is maybe informed my opinion of music in general, right? Uh-huh. Is that I was at a Dead and Company show this summer and was listening to songs that we know we've listened to for 50 years. You know, I mean, think about that. Like, 50 years.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about all the like crazy shit that was happening when the songs were written and how dark the days may have seemed or how powerless people felt. And they all listened and got that message and enjoyed it and were comforted by it. And then 20 years later, something else shitty or dark happened and they played the same songs, you know? And now it's 2023. And the point is, I guess, is that, man, there's been a lot of bad shit that's happened over the past 50 years. Been a lot of bad shit that's happened over the last 300 years. The music always carries on. And as long as we keep that music rolling, everything will be just fine.
I think so, man. I think that, you know, that's what good music and messages, whether they're meant to be funny or they're meant to be a statement or whatever they're meant to be, that stuff lives on. I mean, you think about the covers, some of the covers, I'm speaking for myself, but some of the covers that I do, obscure ones, they're 40 years old. They're 35 years old, 50 years old, some of them. I mean, hell, I did, I can't help it if I'm still in love with you the other night, you know? I mean, and it's still just as powerful.
Maybe more so.
You know, today. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. I think that is something that's going to stand the test of time. And, you know, the world was ending as soon as it began.
That's a good way to say it.
That's another thing I was telling people. And the whole thing with the pandemic and everything was, you know, that one of the saving graces of all of it for me, and Brandon Fulson was one who told me this. He goes, you're not the only one going through it. And when I looked at it from that side of it, I was like, oh, wow, yeah.
And that's almost why people
You know?
people gravitate towards it. It's like you're speaking to their soul, you know.
Yeah.
I think that as long as we got music, man, we'll figure it out.
Well, I sure hope so. It's been a powerful force in my life, and it's been something that's got me through the dark times. It's got me through good times. I've had so many amazing experiences that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't have taken all those electives or decided to do what I did, or took a chance on leaving a job and saying, no, I'm going to go play bluegrass music for a living in a timeshare, and still try to raise a kid too, because I hate everything else that I've done up until this point, in the real world, and it was like, so yeah, it's been everything to me. My mind still operates that way. I can hear a song and it takes me right to where I was, or an experience, or a point in time. Or it makes me think about when I can use it in a future point.
Yeah.
Or a future place of time, being like, oh, I hear that a little different, or I could put my spin on that, and that fits right into my wheelhouse.
I think it's the only thing that we do that's different from every other animal out there. We create art just for the sake of it. And it's like, explain why. It doesn't, you can't really explain why. You can't explain why it creates all that, but it's really cool to see the fucking Grateful Dead play a song that had great meaning in 1968 and have great meaning in 1978 and have the same great meaning in maybe it's transferred to a different moment in time or whatever, but as long as that shit keeps rolling, we'll be good.
I will get by. Well, listen, man, I know you're up against it. You got to go. You want to come back?
Of course, man. I love you. I love you.
Well, I love you too.
I knew this was going to be awesome. I knew it was going to be super chill and fun. And I don't know why I brought my guitar. Next time we'll pull the guitars out.
If you want, we will. If not, that's what I try to tell everybody. The same thing I told you is we'll just let we'll talk about anything we want to talk about. And, there's a lot of the guests, including yourself. We've known each other forever, but don't really know kind of the backstory.
Yeah.
So I kind of think, like, with everybody that's been on so far, it's okay, we got that out of the way. Now the next time, we can really be loose and free to talk about.
Get totally weird.
Yeah. But if you want to come back, we would love to have you back.
We'll definitely do that.
And
I think we got to do the busking. We got to do the busking thing. Maybe we get Kimbrough. Maybe that would be a good thing. You get every person that you've had on the show, and we should all go busking one day. It would be hilarious. We could have a competition or something.
That'd be good. It'd be a lot of who can make the most tips. Or something,
It's not a competition, guys. It's not a music
Brendon
is not a competition.
Brendon said it was. But now, when you come back from doing your ayahuasca, maybe you'll.
There's a 50-50 chance, I think, at this point. I'm weighing the options.
Well, listen, I hope you have a hell of a time. I hope you do everything that you want to do, and you have safe travels and continued success about everything you're doing. Have you got anything coming up?
Kimbrough and I are playing the Albright Grove here.
Our friend Jessica Watson.
A couple weeks in October. I don't know. I mean, this will probably air way after all that stuff.
Probably, but
at the same time, I'll still be around, man. I'm still going to pick up and play. And I mean, I have a backlog of songs that I've written that are done that need to be recorded. So that'll happen sometime. I'm not sure exactly when or how or what the motive is not to do anything amazing with it or whatever. It's just to get it down because they're polished done songs. So
Well, and that's part of you. That's part of your legacy. That's part of having a recording of something.
yep.
You know, that's I think that's as important as anything, you know. But any rate, Jamie, what about you? You want to do another one?
Absolutely.
Well, you heard it here first.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you putting all this together. Thank you guys for having me out to the honky tonk.
Yeah, man, come back. We'll write some music here.
I love it. We've been talking about that too. We need to have a write session. Maybe we do a recorded write session. That'd be interesting.
That would be.
It could be really bad.
It would probably be bad.
You never know. You get lucky.
Well, that ain't worth a shit. I don't even know why I said that. But nonetheless, everybody, tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Be kind, love one another, and have one more for the good guys.
Cheers, brother.
You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.